ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. In this video, I am going to narrate Amrit Bindu Upanishad. This Upanishad belonging to Krishna Yajurveda is the 20th among the 108 Upanishads. This Upanishad is known by two names, viz. Amrita Bindu and Brahma Bindu, meaning droplet of nectar or droplet of Brahma. This Upanishad deals with the intuitive realization of identity of Brahma and the individual self by restraining the mind, Mano Nirodha. Liberation depends on the restraint of the mind and on nothing else. Charity, worship, philanthropic works, service to parents, pilgrimages, austerity, and knowledge of the various branches of the Vedas, dealing with rituals, all these are useless to an aspirant who has not restrained his mind. This Upanishad brings a synthesis of jnana and yoga to attain the absolute non-dual state. The teachings of this Upanishad are very rationalistic and scientific. Shanti Mantra. Om Sah Navavatu Seno Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavah Tejasvi Navavadhitamstu Ma Vidvas Vahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahma protect us, both the teacher and the disciple. May Brahma be pleased with us both. May we work together with vigor. May our study be illuminating. May we not hate each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace. The mind, cause of bondage and liberation. First is verse. मनो हि दिव्येद्धं प्रोक्तं शुद्धं चाशुद्धमेव च अशुद्धं काम संकल्पं शुद्धं काम विवर्जितम्. The mind is mainly, apart from other divisions, said to be twofold, pure and impure. The impure mind is that which hankers after objects of desire, and the pure mind is that which is free from desire. There are various states of mind like supermind, illumined mind, overmind, etc. But here it has been classified as existing in two states with pure and impure mind. Stanza number 2. मन एव मनुष्याणाम कारणम बंध मोक्ष यो बंध है विषयाशक्तम मुक्तम निर्विषयम स्मृतम. The mind alone is the cause of bondage and liberation of human beings. When engrossed in sense objects, mind leads to bondage. When released from sense objects, mind leads to liberation. So the wise think. Liberation in karma yoga and bhakti yoga is gradual and dependent on God. The main aim of karma and bhakti is the purification of the mind, which is due course of time grants relative immortality in Brahmaloka. Liberation in Raja Yoga and Gyan Yoga is Sadhyo Mukti, liberation here and now. Gyan Yoga affirms that liberation can never be the result of any karma, action, or upasana worship. Mukti Ko Upanishad clarifies that the four types of liberations referred to in Bhakti Yoga, viz. Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, and Sayujya, are not real, and only Kaivalya is absolute liberation. This absolute liberation is attainable through the knowledge of the Upanishads alone and not through karma, rituals, Sankhya, yoga, or worship. Raja Yoga believes that liberation follows the no mind state. In Jnana Yoga, liberation follows the destruction of ignorance that veils the eternal nature of self. Raja Yoga and Jnana Yoga are self dependent for liberation. Mind is the cause of ahankar, ego, and mamkar attachment, leading to the bondage of an individual. When a person has attained the no mind state by withdrawing mind from sense objects, then even though he does not desire liberation, he attains it. Verse number 3. Yato nirvise yase manso mukti rishyate ato nirvisiyam nityam manah karyam mumukshana. Since liberation is ensured to this mind when free from desire for sense objects, therefore, seekers of liberation should constantly strive for eradication of all desires from the mind. Jnana Yoga, coupled with renunciation, affirms that liberation is the result of the state of absolute desirelessness and not the outcome of any worship, upasana to some external god. Upasana may be purifying to an aspirant, but its purpose is not the attainment of the state of desirelessness. It is still an extravert path, Pravrti Marga, which seeks prosperity. The contention of some ignorant people that one attains liberation even without knowledge when all the results of actions are exhausted after enjoyment is not validated because the Shruti says, never does desire cease by enjoyment of the object of desire. As fire by fuels, so also enjoyments further intensify desires. Manushamrti. Stanza number 4. निरस्त विषयासंग सन्निरुद्धं मनो हृदि यदा यतात्मनो bhavam tada tatparam padam. When the mind with its all desires for sense objects eradicated is well restrained in the heart and thus attains the state of Atmahood, then it is the supreme state. When the mind gets convinced about the sole reality of Atma and the unreality of the rest through Viveka, discrimination, and Vairagya detachment, then it stops brooding upon sense objects and attains a state of non existence. Being restrained in that thoughtless state, the mind attains dissolution in the Atma alone. This is the state of Mano Nirodha, in which the mind remains identified with Atma alone. Manonirodha is said to be the supreme religious act. We read in Mahabharata, thus, the highest austerity is in the one pointedness of the mind and senses. It is superior to all religions. It is called greatest of all religions. Yoga prescriptions for Mano Nirodha. How long should one practice Mano Nirodha? The Upanishad seeks to clarify this doubt. Stanza number 5. Tavadev nirodhavyam yavadhyardi gadam akshayam etad jnanam cha dhyanam cha shesho nischay vistrah. The mind should be restrained so long till it dissolve in the heart. This is jnana, self-realization, and this is dhyana, meditation. The rest is mere argumentation and verbosity. A yogi restrains the mind with the firm conviction that nothing else exists apart from Atma and nothing ever originated out of this Atma. Being one with that consciousness, the yogi attains intuitive realization of Atma. Subjugation of the mind is possible only if the yogi overcomes the four obstacles in samadhi, viz. Vikshepa, distraction due to sense object, laya, dull state or dreaming state, akshaya, fall of consciousness due to the drag of latent impulses, and rasavada, self-complacent state of the mind with lower type of bliss attained in samadhi. The mind in the state of nirodha leading to samadhi is different from the susupti state. In the susupti state, the mind gets resolved into its primal cause along with all its latent impressions, vasanas, while in the nirodha state, mind is restrained by virtue of its discriminative knowledge. The yogi attains knowledge of Atma that shines forth in the state of samadhi. Thus, this nirodha state is said to be meditation as well as knowledge. The rest, scriptural deliberation, is only for argumentation and serves no purpose in liberation. The above verse is very profound in its meaning because it sets forth the goal of all spiritual practices. The one who enters in this heart through samadhi becomes apta kama, he who has got all his desires fulfilled, prapat, prapat parpaya, one who has attained whatever is to be attained, krit kriya, krit kirtya, one who has done whatever is to be done, there remains nothing to be known. Stanza number 6. Naiv chintem ne cha chintem ne chintem चिंतमेव तत् पक्षपात vinirmuktam brahm sampadyate tada. This state should never be contemplated as external to one's own self, nor should it be averse to contemplation as self, nor should it be contemplated as qualified, but should be contemplated as existing in its fullness everywhere. That Brahma, which is free from all partiality, is attained in that state. That state in which the mind abides in the heart should never be imagined as fixing the mind on some entity beyond this material universe. The space present in the heart is called causal space, Chidakasha, and it permeates material space, bhutakasha, as well as mental space, chitakasha. In an individual, it exists as a size of a thumb. Hence, this state should not be considered as external to one's own self. Further, one should not become averse to contemplation on the self, knowing it to be incomprehensible through the mind, because Katha Upanishad says that through the mind alone it should be attained. It should not be contemplated on as qualified either. Contemplation on Shabna Brahma with name and form presupposes the triple consciousness of Dhyata, Dhya and Dhyana. It should be contemplated on Vedantic terminology. It is said as immanent and instantaneously transcendent. Mundaka Upanishad mentions that the self who is omniscient in general and all knowing in particular should be realized as existing in its fullness everywhere, possessing absolute bliss and immortality. Stanza number 7. Savren Sandhyo Udyog Savram Bhavyet Param Asavarananu Bhaven Bhavo Vam Bhav Isyate. One should practice yoga with sound nada of Parnava, then meditate on the Supreme Brahma beyond sound. Finally, by the realization of beyond sound nada, the non-being is perceived as being. Parnava Upasana that involves uttering of the sacred syllable Om is considered as the synthesis of Upasana worship and Jnana knowledge and prescribed for those Jnana yogis who have not yet attained an advanced stage but want to contemplate on non-qualified Brahma. Parnava Upasana employs the power of sound nada to captivate the mind and make it one-pointed. Mandukya Mandukya Upanishad mentions that the three principal letters of Parnava Om represent the three states of consciousness, viz. Objective, subjective, and transcendental. The unarticulated sound, Ardhamatra or fourth letter, represents the fourth state of Turiya or super consciousness. One who practices yoga involving sense and mind control through yama, niyama, etc. with Parnava, his mind gradually finds repose in the subtle sound. This subtle sound is related to ether. As long as there is sound, so long does ether and mind persist. When sound nada of three principal letters of Parnava ceases, there comes the quiescent state where the mind ceases to exist. Nada Bindu Upanishad mentions that by the constant application of nada of Parnava, the mind becomes free from all impressions. Then the mind and vital airs get merged in the Atma, fourth state of consciousness. With this one attains the all-witnessing state of being, which at first appears as non-being. Jnana, identity of self and Brahma. Having stipulated yoga for Mano Nirodha, restraint of mind, now Jnana is being set forth for establishing the identity of self and Brahma. Yoga for Mano Nirodha is necessary but not a sufficient condition for liberation. Mind becomes extinct only if it sees the self everywhere and attains identity with the self through non-dual knowledge. We find conflicting views among the various dualistic systems of philosophy like Nyaya, Vaisesika, Sankhya, Yoga, Buddhism, and Jainism because of different methodologies adopted therein. They stand by their own conclusions and are at war among themselves and whosoever opposes them. The secular system of materialists is still worse because there is a no concept of eternal life and it is antagonistic to any spiritual view of life. But the view of the Upanishad is holistic and all encompassing. The central theme of all the Upanishads is to prove that individual self is essentially Brahma without any birth and death, but because of avidya or maya, it appears as if undergoing birth and death. Liberation results from the identity of self and Brahma when this avidya is destroyed through knowledge. This is the philosophy of non-duality. The Shruti says Advaita Darshanam Jnanam. Non-duality is perfect knowledge. This philosophy of non-duality entertains no grudge or conflict with any system of philosophy. It accepts both empirical, vyavaharic as well as illusory, pratibhashik views under their respective domains and then underlines the fundamental reality of absolute Paramarthik Brahma. The philosophy of nihilist is invalid from the point of this absolute reality. This Upanishad now seeks to establish the highest truth with the help of the doctrine of non-separation. Stanza number 8. Tadev niskalam brahm nirvikalpam niranjanam tad brahmimiti gyatva brahm sampadyate dhruvam. That alone is undifferentiated, non-qualified Brahma, which is ever pure and without thought. One verily becomes immutable Brahma by realizing I am that Brahma. The philosophy of non-duality affirms that the whole phenomenal existence is nothing but Brahma. Because of Maya, it appears as differentiated, but in reality, it is absolute. The Upanishad refutes the contention of the dualist that if the whole creation is Brahma, then it must become sinful and tainted because of sins committed by individuals. Brahma is the unrelated witness of everything and is not tainted by anything. It is transcendental and ever pure. The Katha Upanishad declares he being transcendental is not tainted by the sorrows of the world. Brahma does not think by thought process of the mind, rather he pervades the thought of the mind. The mind functions because of the light of Brahma. Brahma is subtler than the mind and hence he never comes in contact with the mind or thought. The Upanishad thus seeks to establish the immutable and imperishable nature of Brahma by proving that Brahma is the innermost fundamental entity. Such an entity alone can be eternal. Liberation is assured for him who knows this Brahma. Vidya through identity with Brahma. Nirvikalp, stanza number 9. निर्विकल्पमनन्तं च हेतुदृष्टान्तवर्जितं अपरमेयमनादिं च यद ज्ञात्वा मुच्यते बुद्धः. Stanza 9. Brahma is beyond thought and infinite, beyond reason and analogy, boundless, extensive, immeasurable, causeless, knowing which a wise man becomes free from all fetters. Brahma cannot become the object of thought because he is thinker of thought. You cannot think that who is the thinker of thought. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Further, the Kena Upanishad says that which is not thought of by the mind, that by which they say the mind is pervaded, know that to be Brahma, and not this that people worship as an object. Kena Upanishad. Brahma is incomprehensible through the mind, and hence his existence cannot be established through reason and analogy. Though one can try to explain the nature of Brahma to incompetent aspirants through reason and analogy by drawing a similarity with boundless space. Brahma pervades even space ether. By this immutable Brahma, O Gargi, is the unmanifested ether pervaded. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Since Brahma is the most fundamental entity, he is causeless and self existing. The above two slokas present the central theme of all the Upanishads. The final verdict of Vedanta is that the Jiva, individual, and the universe are in reality nothing but Brahma. This leads us to the doctrine of non separation as explained in the next sloka. Sloka number 10. Ne nirodho ne चोत्पत्तिरन बुद्धो न च साधक न मुमुक्षुर्न वै मुक्त इतेषा परमार्थता. There is neither dissolution of the mind nor its origination. None is bound and none is engaged in penance. None is seeker of knowledge and none is ever liberated. This is the supreme truth. Because of a dualistic outlook, there is a false appearance of the jiva being under bondage or liberated. The prescription of dissolution of the mind applies to such false appearances. From the standpoint of non duality, everything is birthless self. The Katha Upanishad says, self did not originate from anything, nor did anything originate from self. The individual being is never separated from Brahma, and hence the merger of the individual in the universal absolute is superfluous. This doctrine may appear horrifying to a dualist, but the view of a dualist regarding liberation is also not free from defects because rebirth is still possible in a so called liberated state. Oneness of Atma. Stanza number 11. एक एवात आत्मा मंतव्यो जागृत स्वपन सुसुप्तिषु स्थानत्रय व्यतितस्य पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते. One Atma alone should be admitted in the three states of wakefulness, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. For him who has transcended the three states and has attained the fourth state of superconsciousness or Turiya, there is no more rebirth. The goal of a yogi is to perceive oneself in all the states. He keeps himself awake in that self through constant liberation on the self. When yogi identifies himself with the witness of all the three states of Jagrat, Swapna and Susupti, he attains the fourth state of Turiya. This yoga is very difficult to practice for those who perceive the selves differently and run after them because of a fault in character. The Katha Upanishad says he goes from death to death who sees any diversity in this self. This is the definite conclusion of Vedanta. The next few slokas use an analogy to validate the oneness of Atma in all beings. The use of analogy is also a method to elucidate the intricate nature of a hypothesis which makes it simple to understand. Stanza number 12. एक एव ही भूतात्मा भूते भूते व्यवस्थित एकदा बहुधा चैव दृश्यते जल चंद्रवत. There is only one Atma in all beings dwelling variously in different beings. Though one, it is seen as many, like the reflection of moon in the water. Stanza number 13. घट संवृत्तम आकाशम नियमाने घटे यथा घटो नियेत न आकाशम तथा जीवो नभोपमय. Just as space enclosed in a jar does not change when the jar is carried from place to place or the jar is broken, similarly, the jiva resembles the space and remains untouched in spite of the linga sarira traversing various regions and the repeated destruction of the body. Stanza 14. घटोद्विविधाकारं भिदमानं पुनः पुनः तद्भगन् न च जानाति च नित्यशः. When jars of different forms or shapes are split again and again, the space enclosed by each jar does not know that it is broken, but it always knows itself as all pervasive without destruction. Similarly, the Jiva is all knowing, ever unborn, and undecaying. Stanza number 15. शब्द माया व्यर्थो नैव तमसा याति पुष्करे भिन्ने तमसि चैक चैक्तवमेक evanupasyati. Enveloped by the illusion of sound, name and form through which the phenomenal universe is perceived, one does not perceive Atma just as one does not see a blue lotus flower in darkness. When darkness illusion is dispelled, wise one sees only the oneness of Atma. Seekers who dispel illusion maya through discriminative knowledge, they become firm in that reality and realize oneness of self. The Katha Upanishad says there is only one ruler, inner self in all beings that makes a single form multifarious. Intuitive knowledge and absolute non-duality. Having set forth yoga and jnana, this Upanishad finally insists for the intuitive realization of absolute non-duality by delineating two types of knowledge. Stanza 16. शब्दाक्षरं परं ब्रह्म तस्मिन् अक्षिणे यद अक्षरं तद्विद्वान् अक्षरं ध्यायेदिच्छे अन्ति आत्मना. The mystic syllable Om should be first meditated as the Supreme Brahma. After the waning of that syllable Om, sound of three letters A, U, and M, and humming sound has also receded and merged into the fourth state of Turiya. that imperishable Brahma remains beyond Nada, Bindu and Kala. The wise should meditate on that imperishable Brahma if he desires peace of his soul. Nada Bindu Upanishad mentions that Nada has four matras comprising of A, U, M and Ardha Matra of Omkara. Bindu Isvara is the speck of all matras where the mind is said to be in the Unmani state over mind. The four matras are subdivided into 12 with each having three svras intonation with Udatta, Anudatta and Savarita. These are said to be 12 kalas known by means of dharana. Prabrahma, Supreme Brahma, is beyond all these matras. Prabrahma is the eternal being who is the soul of all souls and the sentience of all sentient beings. Those who meditate on him attain peace. The Katha Upanishad says, those resolute seekers who realize him in their hearts, to them belongs eternal peace and to none else. Those who seek the eternal among the ephemeral consciousness amidst conscious and one in many, to them belongs eternal peace unto none else. Stanza number 17. Dve vidde veditve tu शब्द ब्रह्म परम च यत् शब्द ब्रह्मणि निष्णातः परम ब्रह्मादि गच्छति. Shabda Brahma, qualified Brahma or Apra Vidya, and Supreme Brahma, non-qualified Brahma or Pravidya are the two kinds of Vidya knowledge that are to be acquired. Having mastered the Sabda Brahma, one arrives at Supreme Brahma. Mundaka Upanishad mentions that Apra comprises of the Vedas including the syllable Om, Viharitis, intonation, Angas, auxiliary sciences, Upvedas, minor Vedas, code of rituals, grammar, etymology, meter and astrology. Pravidya is related to imperishable Brahma and this is revealed through the Upanishads alone. Seekers of truth having acquired the theoretical knowledge from books should intuitively experience the Supreme Brahma. Stanza number 18. Grantham Bhashya Medhavi Gyan Vigyan Tatparah Palalmiv Dhanyarthi Taje Grantham Sheshatah. Having studied the text, various branches of Vedas, the wise one solely intent on acquiring jnana, discriminative knowledge, based on reason derived with the instrument of the mind, and vijnana, discriminative knowledge based on intuition derived with the instrument of consciousness, should entirely abandon the text like the one who desiring rice discards the husk. Stanza 19. Gavamane kavarnanam aksirsha kavarnata aksirvat pashyate jnanam lingin lingi nastu gavam yatha. Cows of various colors have milk of one color only. The wise one views the discriminative knowledge acquired from Vedas as milk and the many branches of Vedas as cow. Stanza number 20. Gratmiv payashi niguddham bhute bhute vasti vijnanam satatam manthitavyam mansa manthan bhutain. Vijnana consciousness dwells in all beings as latent like the butter in milk. One should constantly churn, reflect on that knowledge with the churning stick of the mind. Stanza 21. Jnana netram samadaya udvare hiv patparam niskalam nischalam shantam tad brahma miti samritam. With the help of the vision of knowledge, one should awaken up to Supreme Brahma as one would kindle sacrificial fire by stirring up the wood. I am that indivisible, resolute, and tranquil Brahma. Thus it has been taught. Stanza number 22. सर्वभूताधिवासं यद्भूतेषु च वसत्यपि सर्वानुग्राहकत्वेन तदसम्यहं वासुदेवसत्त्वमहं वासुदेव इति. He in whom all beings dwell and who dwells in all beings, bestowing his grace and all, that self-luminous soul of the universe or supreme being. I am that self-luminous soul of the universe. I am the final culmination of intuitive knowledge is absolute identity with the universal soul. The realization that self is in all beings and all beings are in the self bestows final emancipation. The illusory, unreal universe is non existent. I alone am the actual Hari. I alone am the Sadasiva, the ever auspicious. I am of the nature of pure consciousness. Tejo Bindu Upanishad. This is the ultimate experience of a Videha Mukta. Om Tat Sat. So, at this stage, this Upanishad is completed, and thereby this video is also completed. Thank you for watching this wonderful video. Namaste, my dear friends. Thank you.